Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you the long requested how to make music like Thom Yorke. As usual, again, you can get the full project files, samples, Midi, presets, everything like that from this video right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp, the link at the top of the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And yeah, let's get started. The first sound we have here is this high drone, which sounds like this. So this almost sounds like a horror sound, but it's just that thing that's playing that over top of everything. It may have sounded like part of the other pads, but it's just on its own. Just adding some like high stuff to the melodics, because if I turn this off, it's all very much in the mid-range. Having that constantly going really helps. And yeah, the note that this is playing is E, which I'll show you once we get to the chords. You'll kind of see how that fits into everything. For the sound on this one is made with analog. All it is it's just a saw wave, and then the way that we're getting the effect is I have a bandpass filter here, and then I have an LFO on the bandpass, and then the LFO is set to quarter notes, so it's just doing that, and then I have the retrigger on so that it stays the same every time. And the amp envelope is set like that. We've got a bit of unison, and then a bit of vibrato as well. Here's without that. And then with it, so you can hear, this is pretty important for the sound. You definitely want to do a lot of stuff like this in this style, you know. It's really important to give your synth a lot of character and texture with the style, so vibrato goes a long way. Then we just have some chorus as well as a bit of reverb to give it a bit more space. And then just this drum bus. The drum bus here is less about making it super fat. Like, it does kind of fill out the synth a little bit more. I think a lot of this music is made using analog gear and, you know, recording onto tapes and, you know, recording in a way that already adds a lot of character to the sound. But when you're working just in Ableton, you really don't get that. You know, like if we turn this off, it's just a dry, super flat, dry synth. So the drum bus is a really good way to go through and just add that kind of like warm, more analog texture to everything. Then we have this granular vocal pad, which sounds like this. So this is kind of playing off of like what the main chords are doing. You know, it's very burial influence, it's very kind of like ambient music influence as well. And yeah, so this is really like a big thing with Thom Yorke's music. It's just like these kind of like beautiful ambient sort of things happening throughout the track. Kind of with all the main elements right up front. And so for the notes here, I just started with E. So you just saw that was the same note that high drone was playing. And then we're just kind of playing a bunch of stuff. We're in the key of A minor, so E is the fifth. And you can see like we have C. So that would be the minor third, B, the ninth, this D here, which would be the fourth, and then an A at the bottom. So it's actually like very simple. If you know what you're doing in terms of minor scales, it's not hard to write these kinds of parts. It's just a matter of like creating something that's going to fit nicely with like the bass line and sort of like our main chord progression in the track that's creating, it's almost creating a bit of counter melody to that. Now for the sound on this one, what I did here is I'm using this granulator. This is an Ableton Max for Live device. You can get it for free. You also get it with the download of the files from this video. But what's happening here is I actually recorded my own voice. I'll play you this recording here. There it is. I took that and then I consolidated it. So it's just me singing a C. I matched it to, like I played a synth while I was hearing this so that I could hear the C note, right? And yeah, and then you can hear there's a little bit of like pitch fluctuation, a little bit of just sort of weird stuff that happens. This is great because this creates a lot of texture in the sound. What's happening is we take this, put it through the granulator, and then the granulator. See how those little yellow lines are jumping all around that? So that's how granular synthesis works. Essentially, it's playing back random different pieces of the sample. And this creates a very nice sound when you have something that's kind of fluctuating constantly. You know, like the volume is never the same. The pitch is kind of warbling a little bit because I'm not the best singer. But it creates this really great texture-filled sound. And I hear a lot of this in Thom Yorke's music, especially because he is like a really good singer. So there's a lot of times and a lot of tracks I heard where like literally I'm pretty sure like every synth was just like his voice going through either granular synth or through a sampler or just being repeated over and over. But there's a lot of use of like his voice in this music. And if you're trying to make music in this style, definitely like working with your own voice could be a really powerful tool to make interesting sounds. And then I just have that going through some chorus, a bit of reverb to give it some space, a drum bus. This really helps with this one because it gives it that warm, like sort of crunchiness, you know. And again, that goes back to like making it sound like it's going through an analog mixing desk or through tape or something like that. You just don't get that when you just use it dry. Then we just have a high pass filter to make sure we're cutting out the lows. And then I have this auto pan here. So without this, and then with it, this is that thing that's making it kind of like pulse in volume. Basically, yeah, you can see I have the phase all the way to 0, so it's just affecting the volume straight down the middle. It's not doing any panning. And then I just have it on this inverted saw wave, and then we have it on half notes. So that's what's making it just like super slowly come up like that. It's a really great technique to kind of give this more rhythm, especially when you have like this type of a beat. It's kind of like boom, boom, dun, boom. Like it's all playing together essentially. And that's another big thing I think here is like, you know, it's not just about like knowing how to do one cool sound design idea or even knowing like a minor scale. It's really about like everything working together to create the big picture. And yeah, then we have the bass. So yeah, simple bass line. Again, we're in the key of A minor, so the main bass line is just you know, super simple, kind of uplifting minor key stuff. And then we just have all these like sliding up notes. It's very like dubstep and UK Garage and Burial and Jamie XX and all those different people, but it's very influenced by that. It's just like a nice, deep, fat bass line that has a lot of rhythm to it because of that kind of stuff that's constantly happening. And then for the sound with this one, this is actually just a really simple FM sound. What it is it's two sine waves. Yeah, you can see doing FM. And then the key here is that the second one is an octave up and it's detuned. So that's how you get that warbly sort of like very UK style bass effect. It's just the FM sound and then a little bit of detune. If I turn off the detune, you can hear it almost doesn't have as much like feeling to it. You know, it just kind of feels like a flat sound. But then you add that and you get that really fat, warm bass sound that's kind of like slowly moving. That's the key to this. And then I just have this going through a bass amp. So again, kind of like emulating hardware. Here's without this. And then with it. So you can hear that's just like beefing the sound up and really making it feel very full. And yeah, then we have these synth chords. So you can see this is built on a very simple foundation. Again, it's just in A minor, and what's happening is we're doing, so it's like A and C, and then A and B, and then A and C again, and then A and B, and then the notes on top of that are just changing. So you can see like it's just kind of walking up the scale. Again, it's like, you know, root note, 9th, minor 3rd, 4th, 5th, minor 7th, which is actually just 2 notes down from the root, as you can see, but then up an octave, and then back down to the 5th. Like, really nothing that crazy. It's just how it all fits together. And kind of like the feelings that you evoke when all these different parts are playing together. And also, like, sort of, you know, making sure you're just using the most important things. Because with this theory, it can be easy to have like 8 layers of synths. You definitely don't want to do that, you know. You want to keep it to like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 synths happening at once. But then they're doing a lot independently that comes together to make something really big. So, for the sound with this one, this is also made with analog. I definitely like using analog to make the synths in this style. It's just a saw wave and a square wave. They're being detuned a little bit. I also have some white noise in there. And then those are going through a high pass filter, because you can hear. This is really just for that like kind of sizzly mid-range and high end. Like, because if we turn off the high pass, you can see it kind of starts to clash with the bass. That's how we're getting the bass to cut through so much. And then I have the amp envelope set like that. Then we have a bit of vibrato. You can see it's actually pretty strong. Again, the vibrato just gives it a lot of character, makes it feel very analog, and some unison. Then I just have a bit of chorus, and then we have this auto pan. And this is actually on the exact same setting as the one that is on that granular vocal. However, this one I have the phase set at 180, so you're getting this like kind of thing happening where it's bouncing back and forth. And that's another thing that makes this sound very exciting. It's like, you know, every element is doing its own thing. This one is like just that bright high end. This one is giving us like some kind of deeper mid-range. This one is of course giving us the bass. And then this one's giving us this exciting thing that's bouncing back and forth. So that way, you know, nothing is eclipsing anything, and it's all like doing its own thing in the mix, essentially. And also, this just helps to widen the mix. Because you may not even really realize, especially like casual listeners, may not really notice what's happening. They may not be able to say, oh, it sounds like there's an auto pan on this synth. Like, but it just gives it a lot of life and dynamic motion. And then we just have a bit of drum bus just to give it that extra, like, warmth and fullness. And yeah, then we have the percussion. So it starts with the shaker. Just like a pretty standard shaker. Now, one technique that I noticed is kind of taking a shaker and making it feel a bit like sharper and a little bit more processed. So what I did here is I took this little short shaker loop. I'll play you the original. And then what I did is I pitched it down, and then I have it on this Beats warp mode. And what happens is if you put it on that setting and you set this transients knob to this setting, this number over here is essentially like a transient shaper. Like if I turn this up, see how it's a lot like each one is a bit longer, and then as I turn it down until it just so that's what I did there to make this just feel a little bit sharper, you know, a little bit more synthetic as well. Like, there's something to this where it's like, you're hearing this in the track, it's a sound that most people have heard a shaker before, so it's a very recognizable sound, but then there's something a little bit more futuristic to it and like a little bit more deep to it that you wouldn't just get with like, you know, just recording a shaker live. It kind of gives it a bit more life and makes it feel a little bit more exciting. Then we have this rim shot. This is pretty standard. You know, like a burial style of rim shot. Never playing just like right on the 2 and 4. Always kind of like on either the upbeat or a 16th note or something like that. And even when it does hit on the 4 here, it goes so it's like still kind of not just, you know, super repetitive every time. It's a little bit more exciting. And this one's really just more about getting like a nice, you know, powerful rim shot like this that's going to hit hard. And it's going to sound cool and have like a nice texture to it as well. Then we have this little noise stab. So that just hits on the 4 every 2 bars in this one spot. So all this is just some white noise and operator. It's got a bunch of attack on it. I have a high pass filter on that as well, so it's like you know, just kind of brings it to life a little bit more. It gives it something that feels like a little bit more futuristic and not just like, a simple programmed percussion, but it's kind of a bit more fluid this way with the rest of the beat. Then we have this vinyl hi-hat. So what this is, it is a hi-hat sampled from a vinyl drum break. Another really good technique for making these style of drums like you hear in Thom Yorke's tracks is like just sampling drums from vinyl and then just taking like one hi-hat like this. And yeah, what's happening is it's just playing straight 16th notes. It's kind of backing up what the shaker's doing. They're meant to kind of play together, but then there's a few things here. So the first thing is, you can see I have this add some random Midi velocity effect on here. So what this is doing is it's making it so the velocity is never exactly the same thing twice. Like, it's constantly bouncing around and it's getting louder and quieter, and it feels very live this way. It adds a lot of movement and motion to the track, and it feels like it's actually like being played rather than just if it's just the whole way through on exactly the same velocity. It's not really going to have that much life to it, but all you got to do is just add a little bit of randomness with this MIDI velocity. You can even turn it up. And it's just going to make it feel like it's being played in a very like live and organic manner. Then I have a utility converting it to mono because this had a little bit of weird stereo stuff going on. But then I have this Haas effect here. So what this is doing is it's spreading the sound out like a lot. And the idea here is the shaker is right down the center. And then this is wide. So now you get like, it kind of just sounds like one shaker that's very full. And again, it goes back to what I was saying before about like kind of obscuring the shaker sound. Like, now it just kind of sounds like we have one shaker in here, but there's something to it more than just like being like, just a shaker that was recorded and okay, cool, let's move on. There's something a little bit more creative to it because we have the two layers. One of them is very wide, one of them is kind of constantly changing in terms of volume. And this is the type of stuff you want to think about if you're trying to make this style of music. Then we have the C78 core kit, which I'm literally just using for these two sounds. So these are just like these little percussions, it's very like quartet-esque. But it adds a lot of groove to the track, and it's cool because it's like these very small percussion sounds. If you can make them cut through the mix properly, it's gonna feel very like, it makes a small percussion sound feel very powerful because it's cutting through all these other, like, much more powerful sounds. And then on the group of percussion, we just have a bit of drum bus. So here's without that. And with it. So you'll notice this is obviously making these a bit fatter, but it really, really goes back to what I was saying before with the percussion. Like, the percussion in this style really needs to feel like it has texture to it, and it really needs to feel like it's together as well. I think that's one of the biggest things is, like, when you hear a lot of Thom Yorke's tracks and a lot of just tracks in the style in general, like, it sounds like all the percussion is kind of like chosen together. Like, it all comes from the same world. And that's a lot more to do with the way you process everything than it is the actual samples. Like, when I was choosing these samples, I was just trying to get cool sounds. I wasn't like trying to find the perfect rim shot that perfectly sounds like it comes with the shaker. I don't even know what that would look like. But then when you put them all through this processing like this, again, this kind of simulates what you would do with like a mixing desk or analog tape or something like that. It just feels so much more like together, and like everything sort of is one. And yeah, then we have the kick and this 808 tom, which play together and they sound like this. So these are really simple, but you can hear the pattern is exciting. It's not just like a doom doom, like straight four on the floor house pattern. It's very like groovy like this. And so what's happening is, yeah, the kick is just, and then the tom is the one playing on those upbeats. So definitely recommend trying that. Like, instead of just having like, the kick play every single beat, try splitting it between this kick and this tom, because they're very similar sounds. The type of kick you're using here is going to be very deep and bassy like that. And then in the mix, they're kind of coming from the same place. And yeah, so that is going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And yeah, thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.